Hello everyone, and welcome to the official unofficial Drone Arena Editor tutorial. In this tutorial, we will be looking at the controls of the Arena Editor, as well as what uses certain tools have. We will not be going into tricks for making the coolest buildings, or what makes an arena good, but rather learning how to properly use the tools provided to make the arenas themselves. I want to get things started off with a disclaimer. The demo version I am running is version 2.1. and many things in the demo are likely to change over time. That said, you should not expect huge fundamental changes, but rather UI changes and some possible control adjustments. If you need to check the controls, then you can hover your mouse over the question box in the top left corner. Doing so will present a screen showing all of the in-game controls. With that said, let's get into the general controls. So then, first off, how do you look around? Moving your mouse doesn't seem to do, well, anything really. Hold the right click button to change your view. While doing so, you can also use WASD to move forward, backwards, left, and right. And then Q and E for up and down. Holding the middle mouse button will do a sort of strafe. Combining the two will do a sort of rotate thingy, although it's not really very useful. If you hold Shift, you'll move faster, and if you hold Control, you'll move much slower. Holding Alt will stop you right in your tracks. Not very useful. And then finally, Scroll Wheel lets you do this, but you can also hold Shift to move very, very quickly around your map. Look at that speed. Alright, now that we've learned all of the moving controls, let's have a look at some other controls. So then, you're ready to place your first rock, but you didn't mean to put it right there in the middle of nowhere. How do you get rid of it? Well, simply use Ctrl plus Z to undo. To redo, Ctrl plus Y. If you use Shift plus R, it will prompt you with a all objects will be. This setting allows you to reset all of the objects completely. So, for example, you have a lot of rocks. You need to delete all of them at once. Shift plus R, and then hit OK. All the rocks are now gone forever. You will never see them again. This will only affect whichever setting you are on. So, for example, if you have buildings and rocks, if you're selected on the Objects tab, Shift plus R will reset only the rocks, but the buildings will remain intact. Neat, huh? Another helpful tip is the Settings menu, which can be brought up by using Shift plus Escape. I have everything set to almost as high as possible, because I hate my computer. If you by chance happen to get caught in the drone mode, and don't know how to get out even though it says up at the top with the flashing color lights, hit M to get your mouse back. Cool, huh? Final tools are how to open maps and save maps. Using Ctrl plus O will bring you to the Load Arena menu. In this menu, you can select any arena that you have saved. And then, to save an arena is going to be Ctrl plus S. Very self-explanatory. You enter your name, your description, and allow other users to modify or not. I recommend keeping this on at all times until your map is completely finished. But hey, what do I know? Now we're finally ready to start building our map. We're going to start with the World Settings tool. What does this tool do? Well, it simply allows us to change the weather and the daytime. So, let's start with weather condition. By using this slider, you can change it from a nice sunny day to a terrible rainy storm, filled with wind, rain, and lightning. Let's turn that down a bit. You may have noticed that all three of these sliders changed. That is because the link button, which will automatically link them to the weather condition. So, if we turn this one off, turning the weather condition to full will adjust the wind speed and the lightning, but not the precipitation. So if we want to link all of our weather conveniently, we could do it that way. If we want snow, all we have to do is turn the weather condition to full and precipitation to full, and make sure that the temperature is all the way to the left. Wow, look at that beautiful snow. It will slowly cover the ground, and when you turn the weather condition back, the snow will stay. Neat. This is currently the only way to get snow environments in the game. So then, let's just melt all that snow away by turning the temperature all the way up. Come on, you know you want to do it. There we go. Good little snowflakes. Let's just place down a tree for our next example. Here we have a tall and mighty tree. Wow, it's actually huge. If we go to the weather, we can turn up the wind speed. This is pretty self-explanatory as to what it does, as is wind direction, which will simply change the direction of the wind. And then finally, we have lightning, which can only be turned up when the weather is bad. We're just waiting. There we go! It's pretty cool, but also very loud and annoying. Now that we have all of that figured out, let's have a look at the current time, day length, orbit progression, latitude, and longitude. Current time. Wow, that's helpful. But seriously though, folks, you have no idea how much you're going to be changing these sliders, so you better get used to them now. Day length is pretty simple also. Sliding this further and further to the left will make the days shorter and shorter. If your slider is all the way to the right, the days will stay the same forever. No change whatsoever. Wow, that must really stink when it's noontime all the time and you just want to sleep. Orbit progression is pretty simple too. It really just changes the sun, to be completely honest. Although, if you set it far enough, you can make it so that your days consist of mostly night or mostly day. And then finally, latitude and longitude, which will simply change where the position of the sun is. Wow, it looks so gorgeous. Beautiful. Well done, developers. You surely have made a very unique and interesting world settings option menu here. And another thing that I forgot to bring up earlier, this is kind of a post-editing addition. We can change from a green environment to desert environment using Shift F1 or Shift F2. Shift F2 switches to desert, and Shift F1 to a green environment. Oh yes, and I should probably mention that these towers here are a bit unsavory to work with right now. So to get rid of them, Shift plus T will hide them, although they are always there. They're always lurking and always watching. Next up we have the terrain settings tool. With this tool, we can make terrain, such as mountains or canyons or hills. Many hills. But before we start with this fun stuff, we have to look at the boring stuff. Brush size, brush fall off, brush opacity, and HL, which I believe this option is actually kind of broken and I've never used it in my entire life. But it does still have a purpose. First off, brush size. Wow, that's incredible. Brush fall off. You might not really know what this does at first, but basically it just makes the edges much sharper. Where you see the brush fall off is full, it's just a rough side. Where if we turn it more towards the middle, it will be much smoother and silky looking. Look at it, it's gorgeous. So beautiful. And then brush opacity, which will basically make stuff go up much faster. Yeah, you definitely will want to set that one in the middle. Now this HL supposedly will only raise up your terrain to a certain limit, but it doesn't always work out the way it's supposed to. But either way, it exists nonetheless. That's interesting. I've never seen that happen before. let's simply use Shift plus R to reset all of our terrain. Wow, we're learning already. Now then, we'll turn that useless feature off. I'm just serious. We have here these 4 options: circle, smooth, billow, and fractal. Circle will just do a circle hill. Nothing too special about it. And smooth is pretty self-explanatory too. You see, whenever you get a hill, it might have some rough edges, and smooth will help to make those much more unique and earthly looking. Beautiful. Billow and fractal are basically one and the same, making these sort of spiky hills. I'm not really sure what the difference between the two is. I'm not really sure there is a difference, to be completely honest, but they're still pretty cool, I guess. Alright, and finally we have hills, mountains, canyons, mesas, and terraces. Now, there is something I need to mention. These 4 tools work separately than these do, with their controls. Whereas with these, you simply hold-click to raise terrain. With these, you must manually raise it. And this is actually very useful, because it allows you to completely control exactly how big it is, including if you use Alt while raising something, you can rotate it and change the size of the brush as you're placing it, thus allowing you to completely modify everything completely as you go. That is the same control scheme for hills, mountains, canyons, mesas, and terraces. Each one is its own unique design, and can be virtually endlessly modified to your liking. See, look, no one's ever made this exact pattern before. No one's ever made this exact pattern before. And one final thing to look at. If you're starting to move your mountain and you decide you don't want to put it right there, if you hold down Shift, you can change where it is. So you can rotate, scale the size of the brush, and move the mountain itself. Wow, that's really cool. On with the next bit. And now we have objects. We must always place objects in our arenas, because arenas look very dull and bland without them. We have rocks, trees, objects, wall decorations, and dynamic objects. All of these control the same way, but we'll go over just rocks for now. So to start off, there is a type of placement mode that can be toggled using the P button on your keyboard. Automatically, it should work like this. You click and hold to drag around. When you let go, you're given this option to rotate and change the size of the rock. However, if P is pressed on your keyboard, you'll see that the rock is a medium size and you can move it around like normal, but when you let go, it will be placed. This is good for placing a lot of different sized rocks in a very quick amount of time. If you need to delete something, hold Control and click the object you want to get rid of. And bravo! You have now deleted that one rock in the middle of a bunch of other rocks. The rest of the objects pretty much work the same way. However, wall decorations and dynamic do have some additional features. Let's just place a quick wall for us. If we go to wall decorations, we can place these on the wall, as they kind of say. Make sure that quick placement is off because quick placement stinks. You can rotate them but not scale them. However, for these tattoo or painting styles, you can scale them. Also, you'll notice this weird outline. That is simply because of my particular graphics card not wanting to work right with this game. It's very sad, but I'm okay with it. Finally, we have dynamic objects, which are the ones that are not static. For example, this one, and this one, and, well, you get what I mean. But they can move around in your arena, so you can shoot them and make them fall over. These objects cannot be scaled, however they can be rotated. You can spin them around all day if you'd like. It's actually kind of mesmerizing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Objects tab. Now we get to move on to my least favorite part in the entire game. Yes. Painting. This is something that you're going to do to the buildings you put in your arena. So then, we have these two square and circles, this lock with two arrows, and a bunch of textures. These textures are pretty self-explanatory. You click on the one that you want to put down, and you paint. Very simple and easy indeed. Before we get to see what these things do, let me just show you something. Wow, it works just like Microsoft Paint's Paint Bucket. It's so convenient. It's what you do when you hit the F key on your keyboard. It automatically fills the entire area. And as you can see by these which are not painted, it can be a little messy sometimes. But I'm sure with enough practice, you'll eventually get the hang of it. We have these two options down here, which allow us to manipulate the textures. So for example, if I don't like the way this looks, I can hold down Shift and click, and I will get to move it around. Except I'm not actually holding Shift right now, I'm holding Control. Yes, you can do both in a circle and on diagonal. Diagonal is with Shift, and Control is circle. These two little arrows allow us to lock on or off the textures. So for example, if I like the way this texture looks, and I don't want to be able to change it, having it on the left, I can still change it. But on the right, I can no longer manipulate it. It is stuck like this forever, or at least until I select either this arrow or the lock button. There are a few other things we need to look at, like if you like this texture, but you're stuck on this texture, if you held Control and click, you will select that texture, and then you can paint it to your heart's desire. Okay, and one final thing to mention. If you want to paint on multiple layers, you can use the plus key on your numpad to paint on multiple layers. This is a little buggy, as you can probably tell, but it can really help if you're painting a large building. If you need to take these layers down again, you can use the minus key, and it will reset it for you. So yeah, that's pretty much it for painting. And now we get on to buildings and stairs. These two are the same, except they are in separate categories. The only different control you will find is how to rotate the stairs. You use the comma key or the period key. And that's literally the only difference, because there is nothing to rotate in the buildings option. So now let's just move on to there. So, here we have our grid with a block in the middle. Nothing too special. If we want to place a block, simply click, like with everything else. But this is kind of boring and not very efficient. So, how do we fix that? Well, there are multiple ways, of course. First off, we have these three buttons. This one is single place mode, this one is line place mode, and this one is square place mode. Line place mode allows you to create a line, but if you want to move it, simply hold down click. It's that simple, and you can make an incredibly easy building right there. Whereas with the singular placement, if you move around, it will create this mess. Then square placement simply creates a square. Nothing really special, but it's still pretty helpful for making buildings, so don't count it out just yet. But I personally prefer to use the line placement the most. Now we have this mess here, but we need to clean it up. Well, if you hold down Control, you can delete stuff, but also, you can hold down Control and make a line with the line select, and make a square with the square select. Quite ingenious, if I do say so myself. Now then, we want to fill in this entire area, but how do we do that? If we use the F key, like with painting, boom, it fills in the entire filled in area. We cannot fill in out here because it is not completely surrounded, but here we can. And just like that, we have one large platform with two blocks on the side. These options down here are pretty self-explanatory. They just show which different blocks we have. Let's get some walls in here, shall we? And then finally, we're going to do some vents. Unfortunately, we cannot use F in this case. Why? Because it won't work. It's already filled in. So we're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Ugh, using my mouse has never felt so bad. We look on the side here, and we have these weird door thingies. I believe these are called vents and doors and windows. These can be used to give your buildings an entry point and exit point, as well as act as decorations. It is very interesting the amount of options we have for this. Although these two doors will not open because ceiling doors are currently broken. These two, however, will. If we use this slider on the side, we can change it from a door to an open hole. And it can be hard to tell an open hole from a window, but windows will have a slight glare on them. And then finally, this small door is also compatible with vents. If we click on the side, we will then be able to click into it and make a ventilation shaft. And then finally we have these things, which allow us to add barriers. Exciting. And also a bumper. And also lights. If you want to change the color of the lights, you can use page up and page down, respectively. Keep in mind that I'm moving my mouse around like this because if you hit page up, it will not show you a change, but when you move your mouse, it will. It's funky that way. Now then, if you want to build on multiple layers, use E to go up and Q to go down. If you're really high up and you need to build on this height, you can use R to get it up to your camera level. We have one more thing to go over inside the arena, and then we get to look at something outside that might be helpful, might not, but it probably will be if you're playing this version of the game. First off is something known as arena baking. Whenever you switch to drone mode, you'll see the option to say, press Shift plus B to bake. Now, I don't believe you can do this in drone mode, and we're not going to try. Baking your arena will basically make the lights look good. While this does look respectable, if we bake the lighting, then the shading will be much more accurate, and everything will look much more pretty. It definitely helps with improvement, and just gives your arena a finished look as opposed to this. I guess I could bake it for you guys. And after about 10 seconds, this is our arena now. You'll see that the shadows look much more detailed, as well as just everything looking a bit better, to be honest. It definitely helps, and you really shouldn't release an arena that's not baked. But definitely don't try and bake your arena until you're finished, because otherwise you'll get this. Look at it. It's so hideous. You can't really tell on this size of a map, but it will definitely reduce your performance the bigger the buildings. And now that that's out of the way, let's go into one final feature. Alright, our final feature is how to get backups, as well as how to upload and download maps. In this folder we have the Drone Closed Demo 2.1.0. Let's start it up. We have the game, we have demo instructions, and some other Unity related game development thingies. We're going to look in data. In here we have backup, which will automatically back up our arenas every 15 minutes. These level files are very small, but you can still feel free to delete as many of these as you wish, because unless you mess up your arena big time, you'll be fine. And then finally, if we want to upload a map, or perhaps we want to save a backup and move it to our arena editor because something bad happened, we can simply copy and then move it to resources. This is where all maps are kept, and we can simply paste it from here. This is also how you will get any other maps that people upload. So that concludes the Arena Editor tutorial. If there's anything that I missed, please let me know down below in the comments. But as for the rest of this video, it will at some point get an update eventually down the line. I would like to thank you all for watching and hope you have a fantastic day.